Hello, welcome to a special edition of Force Pro Sports. I'm going to be talking about the random draw tournament with a special guest coming up, but the results of the poll, I just wanted to put them out there without much commentary with the special guest so that people can see it and not have my next episode bogged down by reviewing the results of the poll. So, thank you all who participated in the survey, and I just want the public to have the information. So here you go right now. Okay. I'm just going to go over basically all the results of the poll. Minus the arena stuff. I will go over that another time. But first of all, on a scale of 1 to 10, the people voted. They had about an 8.36. Low 8 out of 10 out of fun. They had a good time at the tournament. Compared with other events, what did you think of this format? We mostly got, I really like this format. A lot of it was good, I do it again. 2 people thought this is their new favorite format. And 4 people, it wasn't their favorite, but they'd attend another. What did you think of the team selection process? Sorted into ranked pairs, drawn from the Bag of Destiny. 63% of people liked it, about 20% loved it, 20% neutral. No one disliked it. That's good. How was your experience playing with your team? This is a really cool result. The fact that 63% of the people loved playing with their team. And then an additional 20 liked their team, 2 were neutral, but 2 unfortunately disliked their team. How even do you think the teams were? 54%, mostly even. Some teams had it better than others. 20% very even, and 27% somewhat even. 2 or 3 teams were not even with the rest. How accurate do you think the player rankings were? Basically, everyone said either very accurate with some misranks or somewhat accurate with a handful of misranks, about 50% each. Rank what you personally value having in a teammate. 1 most important, 10 least important. So this is a little weird because I had like a ton of people message me saying, whoops, I accidentally put 10 as most important and 1 as least important. So I have actually no idea what to make of this. Honestly, either communication and willingness to work together is number 1, or competitive mindset and athleticism is number 1. Based on my hunch, I'm going to say that most people completely ignored this and did what was probably most common sense and what I should have done. 10 most important, 1 least important. So I'm willing to bet that in reality, the majority of people value communication, willingness to listen and work together, and fun and good attitude as their top 3 traits that they most value having in a teammate. What did you think of the quality of the games in the tournament? Due to the format, arena changes teams as a whole. The vast majority, most games were high quality and well made. The games were very close and interesting for 2, and many good games, many not so good games for 3. What did you think of the tier matching system? Pretty mixed results. System worked exceptionally well, 20%. 36%, the system worked very well with some minor flaws. 36%, the system was good and generally worked. And 10%, the system had good and bad moments. How dependent was your team on drawing the right positions in order to have a chance to win your games? About 2/3 of people, it was either minimally dependent, we had a couple of not ideal lineups, or somewhat dependent, there were a couple of draws that would put us at a disadvantage. About a little less than 1/3 of people said they were pretty dependent, there were some lineups which would instantly lose us the match. 1 person felt they were very dependent and that most of their lineups were not good, and 1 person thought they weren't dependent at all. So honestly, it seems like people had a pretty mixed experience regarding if drawing right positions gave you a chance to win your games. And that's something I would definitely want to improve on in a future tournament. What did you think of the 2 round-robin schedule followed by socials? Keeping in mind that we had originally planned on 2 round-robins and an eliminations bracket for finals. 22%, it was perfect. They liked focusing on the casual fun. 40%, I liked it. Finals elims weren't necessary. And 36%, I would have liked an elimination bracket, but it was fine. So about a third of people did want to do an elimination bracket. We ran out of time, couldn't do it. At least not without cutting out the bottom 2 teams. What was your favorite position to play in Loveland? Just for funsies? Most people like Commander. Scout and Ammo are tied for second place. Heavy, actually not the least favorite position. It is Medic. All right, I'm going to just read some comments and give, just off the cuff, my responses to these comments. I may not have all these aren't well thought out or anything. These are all anonymous, so I don't know who put these comments, but I think some of them, I think they're all valuable. And if someone's commenting them, someone else might have not wanted to comment it, but may be interested in hearing the responses. So, some feedback on rankings and tier matching is generally the topic. One person said, focusing purely on the 3-hit matchups, while understandable, I believe is what ended up leading to the several tier mismatches that were present. I understand the point. Only a third of the time people are going to get matched up on 3-hit. So there were definitely people who were at a disadvantage on 3-hit that did fine in the tournament because they didn't have to play that much 3-hit. Totally happened. I still hold a pretty strong belief that the 3-hits have the most ability to impact the game, even though all the positions impact the game. If you get a really bad mismatch on a 3-hit, I fundamentally believe it is much worse than getting a mismatch on a 1-hit. And that's why I prioritized it that way. I understand. I recognize that, like, I think maybe more weight could have been given to the fact that, like, you only get 3-hit 1/3 of the time. I don't know. I don't know if everyone's going to fully agree on this one in the end. But I will also say I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy because some players were complained about being ranked high when they were mainly 1-hit players. And yeah, I don't feel like there's a lot of consistency on this opinion. But totally understandable. Definitely worth considering. I think doing a tier adjustment midweek could be useful. In this, it would have probably been swapping out a few people to help balance things out. There were definitely stronger teams and weaker teams because certain players were more or less dominant against their matchups. I would totally agree that this would make the matchups, the teams more even. And I'm not even saying we shouldn't do it. I have some ideas that I'm like cooking up, fun ideas to throw out there. Just a quick example might be like, what if every day before round play continues, the bottom place team gets to swap one of their players with the top place team, and then the 5th place team swaps with the 2nd team, and 4th swaps with 3rd, like kind of you're trying to stay afloat, despite but you won't get to keep your players necessarily if you're doing well. You'll have to end up, we're gonna swap our tier 3 players or whatever. That's an idea. I don't know. The problem I think that we'd run into is that these events tend to be short and for fun, and like the 3 days went super quick. Coming in with the precedent that we're going to be swapping around may be a better way to handle that. I think there's definitely ways that this could get implemented, but on the whole, I think teams that end up having a good draw or working really hard to actually work well together would be pretty frustrated by having to be separated from the teams that they're liking being with. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It's kind of like, what do you want to prioritize? Not a bad thought. Not a bad thought at all. Needing a first day of playing with teams before a final ranking revision, more emphasis on team chemistry as a team building variable, more emphasis on team chemistry, positions variability, not just rankings, were 2 different comments. Yeah, I can totally agree that team chemistry, though you can't really, you can't guarantee this because players are pulling out of a hat. that is something that the pairing system was at least helpful with, is that if you had a player who maybe was either really inexperienced or lacked a certain maturity to build chemistry with a team, you could pair them with someone potentially on the other side that had that chemistry and maturity, or the ability to build chemistry. There are some players that can work well with anybody, and there are some players who their personality conflicts. There are ways you can minorly try to dodge those issues if you're being intentional about it. So yeah, I mean, I think it showed teams that were willing to work together, listen to each other, did well compared to teams that had a lot of disagreements or unwillingness to work together, or just a tough time building up synergy early on. People from other arenas with little experience should immediately be knocked down at least 2 tiers as a baseline before discussions about them commence, and they have the ability to be placed finally. And then good job, maybe more socials before finalizing. This is like, hey, you can't judge people. I think this is what this person's saying, is you can't really make a good, accurate assessment about people until you've actually seen them in the arena, and maybe more time again to let people build up. One thing I will say is that if you have a player who is like in a really active growth state and they come into the arena for the first time or second or third time, like they're going to improve over the 3 days. That's like a guarantee. So there is some merit to this. I think 2 tiers. I hope they're exaggerating. Like knocking these players down 2 tiers as a baseline. I don't think that's fair. Like, I there were some players that, like, I think our big one for this discussion was like Fire Sword and Vulcan from Utah. We were like, okay, we saw Vulcan in 2024, like a year and a half ago. Never seen Fire Sword in our arena from our memory, and we're like, how on earth do we judge if these players are going to fit in? I think dropping them all the way to like the bottom of the sixth group wasn't necessarily the right call. They ended up doing they ended up doing fine in the tier that we ended up placing them in. Yeah. So I think obviously there just needs to be a balance with, we recognize that out of town players don't have a home field advantage, but oftentimes out of town players, if they're traveling, they're often they're traveled players. They have more general experience than a lot of our home side players. They bring a lot to the table. I thought the out of towners in general performed higher than expectation rather than lower than expectation. But that's a general statement. Like out of towners know how to play, and I wouldn't just immediately knock them down. I'd want to know who's the individual. Because good players, I'd call it Fire Sword, for example. Like a good player with no experience can learn the arena and do pretty well. I'm a little confused about the pairing system, as it felt like it didn't play any actual part. It was mostly used to create teams. I didn't hate it. It just confused me. Um, I mean, honestly, like there's a world where it wasn't even necessary. Like we didn't have to do it. It was definitely something that we used to try to, one, pair people up with someone that they might be a good fit with, or we tried to avoid pairing up people that would not be a good fit, or that would stack too much of one personality type onto a team or something like that. Could have been, I think we could have leaned into the pairings a little more, if anything. And yeah, it originally just came about because we had one pair that wanted to be together. So we're like, okay, well, if they're going to be paired, let's have everyone to be paired. And also, in theory, and I believe this is still true, in theory, there is like a top end and a bottom end of every group. And if you end up with a top end player in a group, it makes it more fair that in a different group you have a bottom end player. Or if you have a middle level player in a group, you're going to get a middle level player in another group. It just makes it so that there's not one team that has that happens to get all the top end players of each tier. Because as we talked about before, like with hey, there are some matchups that would just screw certain teams. Like, ideally, this pairing system allows every team to have those matchups that they really don't want to get. Like, if you're balanced all throughout the middle, great. But if you have, like, I don't know, the top player in group two, you'll be like really hoping that player gets 3 hits, because then you can use that to your advantage. And if you got like the bottom level player in group five, as a result, you're really hoping that player probably doesn't get 3 hit, because they're probably going to be at a disadvantage compared to other people. So it just tries to hack the system to even odds a little bit, making it so that there's still randomness, but everyone's kind of beholden to the same chances of good and bad luck. I'm a little confused. Wait, did I just read that? Sorry, I just put that twice. Next time when building the tiers, factor in resupply performance as well, even if you do it as 70-30. 3 resupply weighting, that will likely balance out the tiering better. Yeah, I think I kind of addressed this earlier. Obviously, resupply matters. You have just as much chance of getting resupply as 3-hit. So resupply does matter, especially in Loveland. Please consider play sit ref instead of play ref sit, so teams can talk about the game while it's still fresh in their minds. Dumbasses like me can't remember what happened 20 minutes ago. I believe the reason we do this system is because they did do play sit ref a long time ago, and players would go off, talk to their teams, and then not be available to ref. When you do play ref sit, players are right there. They haven't escaped yet, and you can suck them in to ref, and then they're allowed to go talk. And something that was definitely happening during the tournament was like people were zoning out while they were reffing and not catching things because they were tired after the game or they were thinking about the game. And if I'm really honest with you guys, I am super guilty of this. It's not that I don't care. I just get in my head after a really big game, and it's something I need to work on. I could probably stand to get some advice about it from some people who are just better than me at reffing. But I'm really sorry. This is probably something that's not going to change. If I know the community and I know our history, you're going to need to figure out ways like I don't know, if you really have something that you want to think about, like pull out your notepad app on your phone and quickly write it down before you go in and ref. Like there are and or take mental notes. But we need people to ref. It's important. It's important that there's accountability for people following the rules. So it's just got to happen. We got to have people there to ref. Be more conservative with time estimates in a mostly balanced tournament. Don't count on eliminations to catch the schedule up. A lot of 20-minute games, 20 minutes per game to be safe. Any leftover time can go to socials anyway, but having to play longer hours and being constantly told to go faster is the surest way to stress people out more during a tournament. Yeah, absolutely. I think we overdid it a little bit on the on estimating how many games we could get in. Totally fair. We're gonna have some feedback in a minute. Let's see. Just we'll get some feedback in a minute. But Joe was kind of left on an island running this, and I wish we got some more people to like kind of help get people moving. Just get a little more support for him. Definitely the tone to me felt pretty. It felt lax until we were getting further and further to the end, and then it was we're running out of time. And that is stressful. But thankfully people were just cool with cutting out finals, and it was like, okay, we'd rather not stress. We're just going to play as much as we can, and we're not going to worry about it. That was good. But yeah, absolutely. Something we've always, I don't know if we were counting on elims, but we definitely like Loveland has traditionally been a very elim heavy arena, and this was just spoiler alert this was different. So yes, maybe we weren't expecting so many games to go to time. House rule preventing multiple same positions drawn in a row. Remove last drawn position from next draw. This is an interesting idea. I know some players were chronically cursed with drawing certain positions over and over and over again. Random draw is funny that way. It will just statistical anomalies happen all over the place. I got like 11 scout games this tournament, which was so cool. But if I'd gotten like 11 medic games, I would have been kind of pissed off. Additionally, like implementing some level of strategy or trying to like curb your odds a little bit of certain players getting certain positions is another idea I'm kind of just like toying with, and like how could we implement that in a fair way that keeps the randomness, but maybe like each team is allowed to like have one redraw or one swap or something like that. I don't know. I haven't really finalized that idea in a way that I like yet, but the heart behind this feedback seems to be people getting frustrated of playing the same role over and over and over again. The heart of it behind, in my mind, is like preventing your team from having to play a lineup that just instantly screws them or like is one of your worst lineups. Either way, I think they both kind of contradict each other a little bit, but yeah, maybe some grace should be had for like not letting players be forced onto the same position repeatedly. Might go more towards the heart of a random draw and what it stands for. And then, yeah, here's the one I was looking for. Maybe have two people do more of what Joe was doing. I know Beans helped too, but have someone running the current game while having someone set up the next one might have kept the tournament on schedule. Overall, this was a super positive experience. I would love to play another competition. Everyone was super encouraging, and I got tons of good advice on how to be a better player, but none of it was done in a degrading way, which I really appreciate. I wanted to end on this one. Really positive feedback. I really thank you, Joe, for all you did. Beans and Gabe, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I think this, not to put more responsibility on the coordinator, but I think it starts with them gathering more minions and delegating more tasks and like setting expectations ahead of time, which is just a really good idea for any tournament. I don't know. I mean, one thing that I know I did do is that like when Joe was busy in a game or refing a game, like I would totally grab the next team and we would just draw positions right there without Joe, and we would just try to have him ready before we went into the game. That helped, I think. And I don't know. I think people were willing to help out. I think we just need to be willing to step up, or the people who need help need to be willing to ask. But I really appreciate this comment. I think it absolutely is good to have a committee of people running the tournament. That way, it's not just one person who's kind of bearing that mental load. I think that's it. Okay, I will stop sharing. Cool. Thank you all for coming to the tournament. I'm just going to leave it there. Just a quick little survey update so that people could actually read it. And then there'll be more stuff coming in the future. Take care.